All right, today we're gabbing with Dr. Wendy Osefo, star of the Real Housewives of Potomac, which is back on Bravo October 6th, Sunday. Wendy, it is a great episode. I'm so excited to have you on my screen. I feel like season 9 is it's giving me refreshed energy. It's giving me like kind of like not a total brand new start, but like
Mm.
almost a brand new start. How are you feeling going into this season 9?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Gibson. You know, I love you. Season nine is completely, for me, a restart. It's funny you use the word refresh because I was just describing the season and I said it's like a refresh. It's
Yeah.
like a refresh as far as dynamic is a refresh as far as like new faces is a refresh as far as like the history some of us have in the group. I just think for me, it was just different but in a good way. It was a
Yeah,
different vibe.
for
Yeah.
sure. So and I don't really want to retread the
Mhm,
past, but the
mhm.
show is coming off of. I mean, and I love Potomac, and I'm saying this lovingly, is that last season wasn't its strongest year. It really wasn't. It just wasn't working. It wasn't clicking. So coming off of a season like that, as somebody
Mhm.
in the show, how do you feel? Like, how do you sort of, I don't, do you change your mentality going into a season 9, or like, how do you make sure that like that doesn't happen again, basically?
That is such a good question. And interestingly enough, I didn't think of that going into season
Good.
nine,
That's probably
but
good.
I had a life-changing moment that naturally made me think of just who Wendy wants to be in life. And that was, me turning 40, which is
Yeah.
such a milestone birthday. And so I wasn't thinking of that in the context of the show, but just in context of my real life. Like, this is a new chapter for me. It's an ability for me to be who I want to be, not who people want me to be, whether that's my mom or whether that's my career.
Yeah.
So for me, ironically, I refreshed and restarted in my own personal life, giving that milestone birthday. And I feel like that energy and that vibe that I had just transmitted through the season. I was like, I don't give a damn what y'all doing. I'm having fun. And that was really my vibe throughout the season.
And I think that's evident just from the first episode. But I mean, in this first episode, Wendy, it's funny that you say that like sort of turning 40 kind of kickstarted a different mindset for you. And we see you make a big career change. You
Yes.
resign from being a professor in this first episode, and that's a big step for you. And as you explained, like your heart wasn't really in that for quite some time. And so for you to take that step, it's great. It's interesting that we're talking today because this morning Hoda Coffee announced that like turning 60 sort of triggered the same thing for her of like, I don't really want to be doing this anymore. Basically, it's funny how those big milestones really do trigger that change, that wanting of change.
At 1,000%. And it's really weird because you're like, wait, it's just a different day, right? It's
Yeah.
like literally one day you're 39, next day you're 40. But it's almost like an opportunity to start anew. It's an opportunity to write this chapter of your life from the beginning, and you get to be the author of it, and you do it with different insights and wisdoms and mistakes from past years. And so it really does change in your mind. I know that might sound so cliche, because it's just another birthday. But when I tell you that turning 40 made me say, wait, you are more than midlife, so to speak, right? Like you need to decide how you want to live your life and
Sure.
how you want to enjoy it. And everything just clicked for me.
And we see as a teaser in this trailer for the season that you're hitting even bigger kind of peaks in your career. You have the White House press secretary on for an interview. You go to the White House. I mean, moments like that have to indicate that you're kind of on the right path for yourself.
That was definitely something that has become a career affirming moment for me. I
Hmm.
think so many of us in our careers, we think that we're not where we want to be because we have this picture in our head. But what that moment did for me is, despite what picture I have in my head, it let me know that you're still making forward movement.
Yeah.
And we think if we're not here, then that means we're stagnant. No, it means that you're making movement to eventually get where you want to be, but you are by no means stagnant. And, it was just so heartwarming, especially since the White House was what was the catalyst for the interview. They reached out to my team.
Oh,
And
cool.
so I was like, oh my gosh, you see me in this capacity. You understand what I'm trying to do with the Dr. Wendy show. And again, just completely career, affirming moment and so excited. I mean,
Yeah.
I took Potomac to the White House and we did not break through Secret Service. I mean, come on, baby. Come on.
It's kind of a full circle moment, but if we're changing for the better. I love that. So, okay, let's get to the group, Wendy, because obviously
Okay.
there are two big changes I think on this cast that are really notable. One being that Candiace stepped away from the show. She is expecting her first child. She's focusing on her pregnancy. And for you, it's a big deal for you just in general, but also because Candiace was really probably your closest friend and ally on this cast for a long time for you. And so I'm curious for you what it was like not having her there as part of this experience. Did it did it free you up in some ways? I'm sure you also missed her. Just talk me through what that was like.
Outside of everything I ever done in my life, the greatest thing I've done is become a mother. And I've done it 3 times over. So I know for me what motherhood has done for me. And I know also just looking at Cameron, who started the show when she was 3 and now she's 5, how fast it
Right.
can grow. So I applaud Candace and I want her to take that moment because it is a journey. And if you blink, you can miss some of the pivotal milestones in their
I'm
lives.
sure.
Um, and then I walk into this new season, not only have people left, but we had new people come in. And so it's definitely a different dynamic. It's a fresh dynamic. And if I could be honest, when we first met as a group, I was like, where's this gonna go? Like
Right.
what's about to happen here? And then after the second time we met as a group, I was like, oh, I see what's about to happen here.
Okay.
And so the new women add a different element that I would say, haven't had before. And so I think that that's really interesting. Just as a viewer, as someone who's a part of the cast, you're watching this and you're like, okay, wow, this is different.
Can you put that into words about like what they do bring that you feel is really new?
Well, first of all, Stacy, I've never met anyone like her in my life. And
Okay.
and that's a good way. I mean, she is so different as far as her personality, her approach to life. I think by the mid-season, you guys are gonna say, we need to know more about Stacy because baby,
Okay.
what's going on with Stacy? Um, I think that Jacqueline brings in a level of inquisitiveness that
Yeah.
some of us shy away from because we have deep connections within the group and we may not want to say certain things. I think Kiana has this level of just fun
Yeah.
that and sisterhood that she brings to the group. I mean, all of the women add something to this group, and I'm just so excited about the ways in which I was able to navigate the group with the new women there as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Totally. And the other big change is that Robyn's not around and she's an OG of the show, which I mean, at least for viewers especially, that's a big change because she's been around for every other season.
Mm.
Obviously, it's no secret that you and Gizelle have had your history on this show and you haven't gotten along pretty much any of the seasons. But I feel like, I mean, just as somebody who knows all of you guys and knows the show, it's not surprising that this season kind of gave you an opportunity to see eye to eye and maybe have moments of getting along because two people were taking out of the equation. One of your really good friends, one of her really good friends.
Mm.
Did that contribute to you guys seemingly getting along for part of this season?
On my end, I'll be honest with you, it didn't. And if
Okay.
you remember the dynamic with Gizelle and I, when I came in my first season, we were cool.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
we were cool, and we were even cool the first half of season 6. It wasn't until she made the accusation about Eddie, and I read her, and she never recovered. That, my friends, is where we went left. Was when she did that. So, with that, with that being
Class is
said.
in session today.
Yes, it is. So, with that being said, I feel like with subsequent seasons, I was just waiting for her to take some sort of accountability. I
Mhm.
was waiting for her to say, she wanted to have a conversation. And whether she didn't do those things in past seasons because of whomever was there, I don't know.
Okay.
But I will say this season, I'm really excited for viewers to see how we have gotten to the point in which we are. It didn't just happen overnight where it was like, hey girl, I like your hair, I like your hair. It was not that at all. It we for me, I needed a level of accountability and I needed conversation, right? And I think you guys will be very intrigued to see who extends the olive branch.
Interesting. I mean, it makes me excited and happy just the prospect of like those conversations even happening. I think that's progress. I think in that, and like we do see in this first episode that Gizelle talks about how like losing her father sort of like put things into perspective for her. And again, I'm just curious to see where things go with you because it's unlocking something I think for you guys to be able to sort of move past a lack of accountability from your end. I mean, from your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree 1,000%. I agree 1,000%. And not speaking on her behalf, but
Yeah,
I understand how when you do lose people in your life, it makes you look at the world in a
totally.
different, especially someone so close to you. So yeah.
Yeah. So Wendy, the other seemingly big friendship development for you that we see that's
Oh.
teased in the trailer is with Karen. And you two have been close for quite some
Yes,
time. And
yes.
I mean, she's the one who didn't really give you a chance when you first came on the scene. I feel like you had to sort of you guys didn't connect right away, but
Oh,
in
yeah.
recent seasons you have.
Yes.
And we see that one of the new additions, Stacy,
Mhm.
tells you that Karen has made a comment about you being quote self-absorbed, and then there's seemingly a conversation that happens between you and Karen where you're like, "Listen, I've had your back on and off camera, so
Mhm.
I don't know where this is coming from."
Right.
Talk to me about that situation and like, does it come out of nowhere for you? Is it talk to me about what we're gonna expect from that?
So I think for me, I think season 9 is all about having tough conversations and holding your friends accountable. And I like Karen. I do. That has not changed. And I'm interested to know whether or not those comments that Stacy alleges she makes about me are true or not. Because
Right.
I think that the important thing in friendship is the type of friend that I am to my friends, I want them to be that to me. And I think that's fair.
And that's a very like base level expectation in friendship, I would say.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay. So basically so it sounds like she denies saying it, and maybe we'll have to see proof of that this season.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
maybe. I
Okay. So right now, does that mean that right now you guys are kind of in a tenuous position, would you say?
No, we're still friends.
Okay.
Oh, we're still
Okay.
we are still friends. I was gonna say why I paused like that. I was gonna say I don't know what's gonna happen by reunion time, but I was like
Right.
it's
Yeah.
too early
Well,
for
it's, I
my
mean, yeah, as we all know, it's like when the show airs, when we go on Watch What Happens Live, do interviews like
exactly.
this,
Ex-
stuff gets said. So, um, obviously, I mean, Karen came into this season in a very vulnerable place, in a very like kind of, she's in the spotlight because of the DUI that happened right before the season started. It's very much the talk of the town, but she doesn't really seem to want to talk about it very much. She said it's a legal issue that she can't talk about. But again, it kind of seems like one of those things that the group will do the talking for her. It's like it's people are going to talk about it.
Mm.
Do you get involved in that? It seems like at first, at least, you're trying to like kind of be arm's length with it. But if it permeates the group enough, it's probably hard to avoid.
E- I'm of the position where this is Karen's journey. This
Yeah.
is Karen's conversation to have, and I want her to take ownership of what this very serious journey looks like for her.
Hmm.
And from my vantage point as a friend, I am just there to support her. When it happened, I reached out to her. I sent flowers to her. I just want to make sure that she was okay. And it's her story to tell. And
Okay.
I just take that position in the group where it's her story to tell.
Are we going to hear that story from her this season, or do you?
Child, I don't I think so.
Okay.
I think
Just maybe not in a group setting, right?
maybe I don't know, maybe not in a group setting, but I think she probably will talk about it with those whom she's comfortable talking about it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting at this first brunch that Giselle hosts that
Mm,
conversation goes to Mia and the Ink and G situation,
mm,
and Karen and Giselle sort of come for her over her kids' involvement in this and sort of them being in the press as a result of everything that's happening. And you really step in and you're like, wait a second. Like, I think we're kind of crossing a line by bringing the kids into it and bringing that up.
Mhm.
And you're sort of like at the core, we're all mothers. This is what we all have in common,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah. You and me have obviously had an up and down history as well, but in that moment, it was really cool to see you stick up for her. I thought.
Mm.
What does that kind of point to maybe you two having good moments this season, or what can we expect from your relationship with Mia?
We definitely have good moments this season.
Good,
Hell, I had good moments with everybody this season. Gibson,
good, Wendy. I'm proud of you.
I was Zen Wen this season. I had a good time. When I tell you
We
this was
love
my
Zen Wen.
my personal favorite season of Wendy,
Really?
hands down. So I'm not here for any of their BS. Okay, I'm here because I'm turning 40. I'm having a good time. But with that being said, um,
4-0.
I really, I really am a mom. I love my kids. I have devoted my life, whether good or bad, to my children. And that's a place and a space that I hold sacred.
Yeah,
And I did not feel like that was the best approach to that conversation. We can address her and any questions we may have as a group about her, but we can address it differently without taking that route. And
right.
it wasn't for me about picking sides. It was about who I am in my core, and who I am in my core as a mother. And that's what will always ground me. And in that moment, I felt like motherhood was being attacked, and I didn't like that.
Yeah, and I think it was a really cool moment. I thought to see that happen, and it's funny, Wendy, because I feel like before this past year across the Housewives landscape, it felt like things were like leaking from productions a lot. Like fans were taking videos and putting them online. It felt sometimes like we knew what was going to happen before it happened almost. Like, I mean, last season, that big fight, it was in the blogs before
Yeah.
the show even aired. But this season it felt like we saw nothing, which I think is such a great thing. I think I love when there's a big question mark in terms of what we're going to expect from a season.
Mhm.
But the one thing that I remember seeing was a clip of you and Gizelle, I think at your birthday party, having a good time together.
Oh,
Which is, do you remember that coming out? Like, do you
yes,
remember the fan reaction to that?
I do. I do remember that coming out, and I was like, "Oh gosh, they have no backstory. They're gonna there's no backstory to this." Um, yeah, at the end of the day, it was my birthday. I love on everybody who was there to celebrate me. I feel like it takes so much energy to be angry, and I'm damn sure not gonna be angry on my birthday or at my birthday party that I don't spend all this money for. So I don't care who you are. Give me a hug, child. So that's what it was.
So that
And she
was
was,
was that
and she
only for your
was,
birthday?
and she was actually one of the first people I saw. So it was like,
Okay.
just came out, and it's like, you're like,
Okay. So that's how we had a little kiki. Okay, it was good.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
mhm, yeah.
And then the other thing, Wendy, that this is a scary moment, but
Oh Lord.
I saw I remember I was doing research for this interview and I forgot that in April your home was broken into or something. Was this during filming that this happened?
I think it was right before, like
Okay.
literally before camera
Oh,
went up. It happened because my family was away on spring break. It was our spring break trip with the kiddos. And I was just so heartbroken. Like, I think a few of my first initial scenes, I'm just a little bit uneasy because we had just been,
yeah.
violated, so to speak. It was the worst thing. It's so unexpected, especially since, from my vantage point and from the investigators' vantage point, it was targeted. You know,
Really?
yeah, because
Shit.
I've lived in this neighborhood for, a long time, but since the neighborhood has been in inception for over 20 years, there has been no burglary.
Yeah.
Like nothing. And so it's so heartbreaking. And again, like going back to my earlier statement, where at my core, what centers me is motherhood. My first thought was my kids.
Hmm.
part of the reason why I live where I live is for their safety, for them to have ample, acres to be able to run, play, enjoy, free of anything. And when someone comes into your home, which is such a sacred space, and violates you in that way, you start questioning things. So I'm just glad that we are okay, we're safe, and we
Good.
are able to move forward from that as a family. But man, that was definitely gut-wrenching.
And that's
Absolutely.
like that's something you have to process too. That's not
Yes.
something that you just okay, it
Mm-mm.
happened. We've locked the house back down. No, like I think the mental recovery from something like that must be kind of difficult.
Absolutely. And now my house is like Fort Knox. We had
Good.
security before, but now it's like complete Fort Knox, like nothing, nothing. Even how we vacation is different. How I post on social media is different.
Hmm.
It's altered the way I move. And you want to be naive and feel like no one is watching you. You could just live life freely. But unfortunately, that is not the case. So it has
Hmm.
changed a lot of things.
I want to end on a exciting note, which is you were at the DNC in August with Eddie. You guys were both there. I mean, it was so fun to just see that on TV, and then to see you posting from it was kind of a was also so cool. Talk to me about that moment, and just I mean that's being part of history.
Absolutely. I've coming into Housewives universe, I had my political
Of
background. I'm a
course.
political commentator, and I think this is now two elections that I have experienced as a housewife. And I know personally that this election is such a consequential one for so many people. And I just wanted to make sure I had a front row to history. I feel like we live in these moments and we take them for granted, but we're living in history. There's going to be a time when the next generation is going to say, "Where were you when?"
Hmm.
I want to have a pretty cool answer. When they say, where were you when? I want to say, I was in the building. And so, it was really important for Eddie and I to be there, to be present. And, I just hope that at the end of the day, whatever your political affiliation is, November 5th is very
Oh,
big. Everyone exercises their civic duty and they vote.
I remember the last night of the DNC, and there was all those rumors that Beyonce was going to perform.
Oh,
Were you
oh,
in the building for those when those rumors were happening? And you were
I
like, "Am
was
I about to
in
see Freedom live?"
I was in the building. I had on flats because I knew a concert was gonna happen, and I told Eddie was like, "Well, you're not gonna say your feet hurt. You better dress appropriately." I changed my outfit and everything. I was like, "We are gonna see Beyonce." I went to Renaissance. I was like, "I'm gonna see her twice," and then I was like, "Okay." But my prediction is this, and
Yeah,
mark my words, documented. If Kamala Harris wins the election in 2024, Beyonce will perform at the inauguration. Mark my words. Hands down.
Star Spangled Banner from Beyonce.
Hands
Sign me
down.
up. Sign me
She
up.
will perform. I can put my political chops on that.
And what a note to end on, Wendy. Wendy, this is so much fun. I love getting to reconnect with you, and I'm so excited for this season. I really did love this first episode, and it makes me excited for what's to come. Just thanks for your time. This is always fun.
Oh, thank you so much, Gibson. I appreciate it.
I want to gab.